In the Galactic Concordance, the universe was not a mystery to be explored, but a text that had already been written, translated, and memorized. For eons, its member species, beings of light, of silicon, of flesh, and of thought, had built their entire civilization upon a set of truths they called the Great Axioms. These were not theories subject to debate. They were the fundamental constants of existence, the girders upon which reality itself was constructed. This absolute knowledge was the source of their power, their stability, and a deep, unshakable arrogance that had calcified over millennia. Then, humanity arrived on their doorstep, a species barely out of its infancy, loud, chaotic, and brimming with a dangerous tendency to view established cosmic laws as little more than a suggested speed limit. The stage for this cosmic clash of philosophies was the Grand Assembly on Citadel Prime, a marvel of engineering carved from the heart of a rogue moon, adrift in the celestial river of the galactic core. Here, Ambassador Eva Rostova stood before the council, a fragile-looking biped of flesh and bone, surrounded by beings who considered planets to be fleeting phenomena. On the vast holographic display behind her, the schematics for humanity's latest and most offensive proposal shimmered. Project Weaver. High Executor Zor-El, a Kelthara patriarch whose species had charted the birth of galaxies, glared down from his floating dais. His stony hide, a living record of his lineage, seemed to harden further in contempt. Ambassador Rostova. His voice was the grinding of mountains, an avalanche of condescension that filled the immense chamber. Allow this council to ensure we are not misinterpreting the imaginative scrawlings of your fledgling engineers. You are proposing a device that does not fire matter or energy. You claim with a straight face that it unravels the causal thread of a target at the quantum level to precipitate its non-existence. He paused, letting the absurdity hang in the air. It is a weapon, you say, that does not kill, but ensures its target was never born. A ripple of derision spread through the assembly. Some species emitted pulses of colored light indicating logical disgust. Others made low, guttural sounds of mockery. A Vorlag delegate, a being whose jellyfish-like body floated in a column of nutrient gas, projected its thoughts into the chamber. Ambassador Rostova waited for the jeering to subside, her expression unreadable. "Delegates," she said, her voice calm but carrying an edge of cold steel. "Your axioms are a magnificent codification of the universe as you have observed it, but they are based on the assumption that the universe plays fair. We humans learned early in our history, on a world you yourselves have classified as a death zone, that the universe is a relentless, cheating opponent. Our greatest advancements have not come from following the rules, but from finding ways to break them." Zor-El's patience, thin to begin with, snapped. He slammed a gargantuan fist onto his podium. The resulting shockwave rippled visibly through the air, causing lesser delegates to flinch. "Insolence! You speak of breaking the laws that keep this galaxy from collapsing into chaos. Your species tinkered with the atom and nearly scoured your own world clean. You birthed runaway machine minds that you barely contained. You are cosmic children playing with stellar fire. Your Project Weaver is forbidden. Your research will cease. This council will not stand by while an infant race threatens to burn down the library of existence because you refuse to learn how to read." Rostova's smile finally returned, thin and sharp as a scalpel. "Humanity has always learned best by doing, Executor, and we have never been afraid of the fire." She gave a curt, almost mocking bow. The Concordance's concern is noted. As she departed, the assembly erupted in self-congratulatory murmurs. They had put the upstarts in their place. They had preserved the sanctity of the axioms. They had just made the gravest mistake in their million-year history. Have you ever seen a master chess player let their opponent take a valuable piece? It's not a mistake. It's a trap. And the galaxy had just walked right into it. The silence from humanity in the following cycles was misinterpreted as obedience. In reality, it was the silence of a laboratory during a critical experiment. The Concordance, wrapped in its blanket of certainty, went about its business, until the universe began to come apart at the seams. It started subtly. A deep space sensor post at the edge of the Perseus arm winked out of existence. Not damaged, not offline, Its signal just ceased, as if the station and the space it occupied had been scooped out of reality. A week later, a Kelthara battle group, commanded by Zor-El's own nephew, was sent to investigate. Their final transmission was a frantic, chaotic scream of data. The last image sent was of the Dreadnought's bridge, not exploding, but simply dissolving. The metal, the crew, the very light itself was being unmade, drawn into a patch of perfect, featureless nothingness on the view screen. They called it the anomaly, for they had no other word for it. It was a sphere of absolute null space, a wound in the universe that bled existence. It consumed everything: starships, planets, nebulae. It was not a void of empty space. It was the void of space. It was growing, accelerating, and its trajectory was a dagger aimed at the heart of the galaxy. The combined fleets of the Concordance, an armada that had brought entire star empires to their knees, threw a firewall of unimaginable power at the anomaly. They fired weapons that warped space-time, that ignited miniature suns, that fired shells made of collapsed neutron stars. And it all vanished. Every joule of energy, every gram of matter was consumed without a flash, without a sound, only serving as fuel for the uncreation. The great axioms were screaming in protest, but the anomaly wasn't listening. Aboard his flagship, the indomitable Will, High Executor Zor-El watched the real-time projections. He saw the red line of the anomaly's path cut through star charts, erasing entire civilizations before they even knew they were in danger. His empire, his people, his entire worldview was being dismantled by a force his precious rules said could not exist. His science officer, a being whose species had prided themselves on logic for 100,000 years, turned from a console, its crystalline form trembling so hard it threatened to shatter. Executor, all models now agree. This is not an invasion. This is a final state, a big rip event localized to a single point. It is the universe correcting a flaw we never knew it had. At this rate, the Citadel itself will cease to exist in 5 decacycles. In the sterile silence of his command bridge, surrounded by the greatest technology the galaxy had ever produced, Zor-El felt an emotion he hadn't experienced since he was a hatchling. Pure, helpless terror. And through that terror, a memory sparked. A human woman. A schematic. An impossible gun. Pride was a luxury the universe was about to take from him anyway. Gritting his mandibles so hard they could have cracked diamond, he gave the order that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. Open a Priority 1 subspace channel to the human ambassador, Ava Rostova. Now. Her face appeared, as serene as if he'd called to discuss trade tariffs. Executor, she said, her voice a placid lake in a burning world. To what do we owe the honor? Zor-El forced the words out, each one a shard of glass in his throat. Ambassador, the axioms have failed us. Your weapon, the one we ridiculed. We were wrong. He took a shuddering breath. The galaxy is dying. We are asking for your help. Rostova's expression didn't change, but her eyes hardened. Help is not free, Executor. The price is the immediate and permanent dissolution of all sanctions against humanity, a formal apology from the Concordance for its scientific hubris, and the ceding of the Orion Spur as sovereign human territory. Non-negotiable. For a being like Zor-El, the terms were a fate worse than death, but the anomaly offered only oblivion. The terms are accepted. Then I suggest you order your fleets to a safe distance. Rostova commanded, her voice now ringing with an authority that dwarfed his own. Humanity is about to conduct a live-fire exercise. In the face of the oncoming oblivion, a single human ship, the unraveling axiom, warped into existence. It was sleek, needle-thin, and utterly devoid of anything that resembled a weapon. To the thousands of alien warships watching from a safe distance, it looked like a sacrificial offering. But on its bridge, there was a quiet, intense symphony of creation. The weapon master, Anya, floated in a zero-gravity sphere, her mind linked directly to the ship's core. She did not see a target to be destroyed. She saw a discordant note in the song of the universe, a fatal flaw in the grand equation that needed to be erased. Her thoughts were not of war, but of editing. From the ship's bow, the twin filaments emerged, one of gold, burning with the light of creation, the other of violet, humming with the cold of the ultimate end. They did not fire. They began to dance, weaving a pattern of impossible complexity, stitching a new reality into the torn tapestry of the old one. The High Executor watched from his bridge, his every sensor straining to understand. "Report!" "What is happening? I see no energy discharge, no temporal distortion, nothing." His science officer could only stammer. "Sir, it's rewriting Planck-level constants in a localized field. It's not attacking the anomaly. I think it's teaching the universe to forget it." As the final, intricate loop of the pattern was woven, Anya whispered a single command to the ship's heart. "Execute." There was no sound, no light, no explosion. There was a stutter. For one single, sickening heartbeat, the universe skipped. Every being on every ship in that sector felt it. A moment of profound, cosmic vertigo. A feeling of being simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. A glimpse into the source code of reality. It was over in an instant, but the knowledge it imparted would haunt them forever. When the moment passed, the anomaly was gone. The starfield was pristine. The terror was gone. But the silence that followed was heavier, more profound than the threat had ever been. The Executor's bridge was in chaos. "Sir, the anomaly is gone. All sensor logs from the past 73 cycles are corrupted? No, not corrupted. They're blank. They show nothing but routine patrols." His first officer rushed to his side. "Executor, the Kelthara battle group, your nephew's fleet. They are hailing us. They report they found the source of the sensor ghost. A rogue comet. They are asking for permission to return to base." The crew erupted in cheers of relief, but the High Executor did not cheer. He sank into his command throne, his massive frame trembling. He remembered. He was the loose thread they had missed. They hadn't just destroyed the anomaly. They had performed a retroactive causality bypass. They had edited history. The fleets, the lives lost, the terror. It had all happened. But now, it had also not happened. His first officer looked at him, confused by his commander's horror. "Sir? We are saved. What is wrong?" Zor-El raised his head and stared at the view screen, where the tiny, elegant human ship was casually turning to leave. His voice was a bare whisper, the sound of an entire civilization's foundation cracking. "Saved?" he echoed. "We are not saved. We are now living in a draft, a story that can be rewritten at the author's whim." He looked at his officer, his ancient eyes filled with a new, complete, and total understanding. "They didn't break our rules. They proved to us that the only rule is that they can make the rules." The galaxy was safe, but it was no longer free. The Galactic Concordance, once the ultimate authority, was now nothing more than a tenant living on borrowed time. The great axioms were no longer laws. They were privileges, granted by a species that had mastered the art of the universal edit. The silence from human space was now the most terrifying sound in the galaxy. It was the silence of an author, contemplating their next draft, deciding which characters would make it to the final version, and which would be written out of the story forever. And the rest of the universe could only wait, and hope their chapter wasn't next.